Welcome back to the Creator Era podcast. Today we will explore the pathway called coherency. Because coherency is how we align to the symphony of the mind, body, and soul so that the genius that we spoke about in the last episode can move freely through us and govern our lives. We've remembered the truth that the genius is already encoded within us, not something we have to chase, but something we need to align to unfold. The question now becomes, how do we actually access this? How do we awaken that genius from potential into presence, from silence into a living experience, and into the unfolding destiny that we're meant to live? The ancients knew how to do this. The Romans called it genius, and the spirit of the destiny was given at birth, something we covered last week. The Greeks named it the daemon, the inner companion guiding the soul towards its purpose. And Socrates trusted nothing more deeply than its whisper. And the mystics of India declared, Atman is Brahman. The self within us is the self of the universe. Saint Teresa of Avila described the interior castle of the soul with many chambers, each one leading to the deeper towards the radiant center of what she called God's light. And Rumi, the great poet of love, reminded us that the wound is where the place of where the light enters. Across centuries, across traditions, and across the teaching, all seems to line up to the same. Coherency is how the light within us becomes visible. This happens when we move beyond survival and shift into creation. What we're talking about, moving into our creator era. We cannot awaken genius by staying trapped in survival. Survival says, protect yourself, this is the end. Where creation will say, unfold yourself, this is your beginning. Survival narrows us into a linear path into fear and competition, repetition of inherited dialogues and narratives. And creation will open us into love, imagination, expansion, and presence. Creation is not only a painting for a canvas or building a beautiful structure. Creation is the way we breathe, eat, listen, move, and love. And this happens when we act according to the divine law encoded within us. Creation becomes coherency embodied. As Bhagavad Gita reminded us, yoga is the journey of self through self, to the self. Survival clings to the surface, to money, to approval, to distraction. But coherency, like yoga, is union, hidden harmony revealed. And it is in this harmony that genius within us begins to shine. The central nervous system. Understanding ourself is the key. Central nervous system is the conductor of this genius. Our body is not just the body, it is a living symphony. And our central nervous system, brain, spine, and the vast web of our internal nerves is the conductor. Every vertebra connects to an organ. Every organ carries intelligence, memory, and wisdom. Together, they form the entire orchestra, the symphony. And when the conductor is clear, the orchestra plays its harmony. Signals spark through the nerves. The organs resonate in tune, and the body glows with the coherency. The electricity moving through the system will generate that light. And our living biofield becomes the radiance of our genius revealed. But when the conductor is infected by trauma, chronic stress, toxic inputs, overflow of information, signals distort, notes clash, organs strain, and the light will definitely dim. We become a symphony trying to perform without the conductor, producing fragments of a whole. Think of a system like a dam or a reservoir. When the water flows freely, they turn turbines that generate electricity. That current lights up the entire neighborhood. If the dam is clogged with debris, the flow will stop. No flow, no spin, no current, no light. Our inner waters, our blood, intrinsically are the energetic fields. They behave the same way. Clogged, they will halt the generation of our inner electricity. Cleared, they will restore the momentum and the light will turn. So how do we move through this? Purification is our maintenance. Debris, old pain, toxic habits, chronic stress accumulates behind the gates. At first, the river looks full, but the blade slows. Clear the debris and restore momentum. The power is produced effortlessly in this way. This is how our inner engine shifts from struggle to grace. Clear the channel and let the current move, and the turbines will spin. Electricity will create the light. And here's the deeper, tender truth. The whisper, call it the nous, the soul. This is the light. It is subtle intelligence, the luminous frequency that offers guidance and the creative impulse that moves through us. But you cannot receive the light if our system is clogged. And when the body is consumed with clearing and cleaning damage, metabolizing our toxins, replaying our drama, All this energy is diverted to the triage. The hard drive is full. The processor overheats. There is no bandwidth left to receive fine, precise packets of divine information. The whisper comes but is muffled by the debris. Healing is the economy of energy. It's free bandwidth. And as we stop numbing and stop polluting and stop rehearsing our old narratives, the energy is restored. The heart steadies, the vagus calms, the blood thins into flow, and the nervous system will calm into conduction. Then the whisper becomes audible, not a faint knock, but a guiding voice. The voice is the invitational, the luminous seeded code and architecture of your destiny. Coherency is the permission slip to receive that, the clearing that turns whisper into program and program into life. The system as a computer. When we can define something, we can understand it more, and we can lean into this understanding. Picture the organism as a living computer. Your nervous system is the motherboard. Your organs are the processors. Your blood is the water and the wiring. Consciousness is the operating system. Most of us run decades of old software, patched with fear, updated, overload, corrupted downloads, and junk files. Our hard drives are near capacity from anxiety logs, unresolved drama, files, habitual numbing apps, and thought viruses that replay the old redundant scripts. No surprise, nothing new can install. How can you? Purification is the defragmentation, the virus scan, and the clean will install. It looks like focused rest, dietary changes, breath that flushes the stress chemistry, targeted movement that unsticks and unclogs the stagnation, silence that lets you come back into harmony, to the release the heavy archives. Water, sleep, real food, and sunlight. This is feeding the clearance of the old, the corrupted program, so that the conductor can pick up the baton again and do its work. We need to move out of our own way. So when we can clean our hardware and our system, two things will happen. Our capacity will return to receive new, and the information becomes audible. We'll be able to input new programs by erasing the old ones, and we come out of the matrix. And we will receive divine governance. That divine governance becomes the intention that we can command and program our life into reality with. That is how the soul co-authors a life. Clean system, clear signal, divine installation. And love is one of the greatest connectors to expand this. One of the tools that we have to clear all this debris that we carry is to connect to love. Because love is not just sentiment, it is an actual entire frequency, and love is coherency itself. And when we choose to love the divine within, the soul, we cultivate the most formative relationship that we will ever have. We speak to it, we can listen, we can tend, we can nourish this relationship. It will provide for us. It will raise our frequency. That will naturally reorganize our internal biology. It literally rewrites our cellular programming. The heart rhythm softens and harmonizes. And we begin to recede or reside in our inflammation, which means our central nervous system can do its work and we can open up and expand as opposed to contract. And love keeps us in that open receptive field. And that field is where the soul can foster in the right soils. And in this state, we begin to notice that habits that block us, the numbing, the distractions, and the compromises will dissipate. Love never shames. Love invites change because love softens us, and we can choose differently from the state of love, from reactive to responsive. Love makes transformation sustainable. It encourages habit change, not through force, but through expanded field that naturally favors coherency. And here is the pivot. If we continue to chase the material attainments to define life, we will never be satisfied because they are finite. One possession is acquired and then it ends. We seek the next, and the next, and there's no continuity. No infinite potential in accumulation of the material. But when we make the divine our greatest pursuit, that the mission we're here for, the receiving and the exchange are infinite. The flow will never end. This is full attainment, and this is the liberation from this matrix. Saint Teresa said, the most important thing is not to think much, but to love much, and to do so that which best stirs you to love. Rumi also added, let yourself be silently drawn by the stronger pull of what you really love. It will lead you not astray. Both point to the same practical magic. Love is the tuning fork that aligns the body, mind, and soul. And love is the genius that will speak through us. It is our guiding force. We actually don't really need to get in our way, and the receiving becomes the illumination. Light is not only a metaphor, it is actually living physics and information. On one level, it is bioelectricity and the whole science of it, and coherency in our cells that does the whole internal work. And on the other side, it is very spiritual. And as we said, when that conductor is clear, the nerves will fire in patterned coherency. Mitochondria generates efficient energy. Cells synchronize, and we begin to converse on a different pulse. This creates magnetism. It creates aura, the field that attracts. Revelation, latent codes activate. What was hidden once becomes visible. Attraction, you start to draw in matching frequencies, peoples, and opportunities through this coherency and this resonance. This resonance in action is not just magical thinking. It is the field of dynamics. It is the truth of everything that we are. And when we are drawn into this most loving aspect and divine genius of who we are, life's grammar will shift. Choices will translate intention. Work becomes a sacrament. Relationships will become experiences of presence. The more we embody fidelity to the signal, the more guidance arrives as practical, tender directions, a sentence, a counter, a dream that will open the next door. This is providence. The genius within will start to speak in ways that will propel us forward, aligned with our destiny, because the seed holds the entire map of who we are, no different than the tree in a forest. When the genius governs, desire transmute, that appetite that once drove us to the accumulation, the conquest, the curated images of success, they will lose their compulsive hold on us. They do not vanish. They will find proportion in a healthy way. They will nourish. They will kind of accumulate as ornaments, as opposed to defining life itself. Understanding the genius within us is our youth, our design, our mission, the beauty that reshapes life's story. The fountain that we thought that was outside is inside. And when we drink from that inner fountain, we do not seek to buy youth or secure love. We embody them. We become it. Vocation turns into that sacrament. Pleasure turns into nourishment. Relationships are received as mirrors. Desire becomes directive rather than demanding. We want what serves the unfolding of genius, what expands the field and deepens the work in servitude to humanity. This is where we all expand. Material chasing is finite. One goal met, then empty, and then the next. It is exhausting. Divine attainment is the infinite. The renewal, the endless, because it's flowing from source. A fountain that will never dry, and a spring that will continue to nourish endlessly. This is where health, love, beauty, abundance, everything is found. It lives there, in that nest, in your true home. And awakening to that will most likely begin with a big collapse. For many of us, the first strings of this coherence will arrive as the dissolution of what we thought had defined us. Everything trusted dissolves. All the maps fall away, and only humility will remain. This is what happened to me. Down on my knees, I saw this with sharp clarity. We are vessels of divinity if we choose to be. That divinity is our genius. From that moment, devotion became a compass. I asked every input, every choice, is this the divine or the ego? I stopped numbing. I stopped diluting my system. I learned how to breathe. I learned how to fast. I learned how to connect to nature. Life became a living prayer and an offering. And step by step, that map that I was so desperate to find began to arrange itself in every single revelation, every single moment in life. And that's when the lightning struck. When this realization broke me open, it felt like I attained the rarest gold ever to be found in life. It felt like I had cracked the code of life itself, and since then I have been living from that code. What happens next in that moment is remarkable. And once you live from the code, life lives through you. Everything you need, the healing, the guidance, the provision arrives as a precise, tender message in the right time. A person, a phrase, a book, an impulse, a dream. The map is inside the seed, and the genius co-authors with you. There is nothing that will ever distract me from this truth again. Even as the outer matrix may pull me away, that inner truth, that divinity, that knowing becomes non-negotiable to attain. And this is the Renaissance within, and history will always show the collapse, the clearing, and the Renaissance. After a plague, within or without the famine, humanity will rebirth a new genius, a new Renaissance, because emptiness compels a deeper remembering. Michelangelo said this: I saw the angel in the marble and carved it until I set him free. He understood the work. Remove the stone that obscures the form. And this is what that stone is. It is the debris, the illusion. The angel and the genius lies under the sediment of habit, fear, and inherited scripts in doctrine. Coherence is our carving. In our moments, systems will break down. And in that moment, this is the beginning. If we are committed to the clearing, if we choose devotion over distraction, a renaissance of coherency is always possible. Leadership from that moment will govern the artist who makes from love, the healers who restore by field, the communities that remember ritual and unity. This is not a fantasy. This is the emergence of possibility when the inner work becomes your life. It's not something that you talk about. It's complete embodiment. And this is what happens when you flip the narrative. And like I mentioned before, survival will always say this is the end. Creation will always say that this is the beginning. And this is where we separate sometimes. What makes that 1% the 1% in the world? What are you willing to give up in this lifetime to flip on that switch to your genius, to allow that divine governance to be your divine providence, to understand that everything that you've ever sought to seek lives within you? But we have to clear that inner system. We have to align, and we have to be in that same resonant field to receive. As I mentioned, the computer system. When I personally understood this, my entire life changed, and this is where that genius unfolded. So now, as a creator, we move from seeking and trying to embodiment and just living as the divine expression of whatever is coming through you as a conduit. And this is where we move away from resistance and force and into flow. And in flow, potential will live on through you because you're not doing it from the ego. You're receiving that infinite reservoir, that river that will never end of abundance, love, beauty, health, wellness, and possibility. So yes, this podcast might have been rich, but this is what it means to be in coherency. To really understand is to liberate one from the matrix of limitation. Understanding opens our perspective. Perception will change. And when perception changes, the intention will come online, meaning you get to operate the computer system. The computer system will not operate you anymore. You know how to clear out files. You know how to upload new programs, and you will live as the co-creator with that divine governance, that divine genius, and allow it to flow through you. And then life becomes a living transmission, and everything will meet you at that point. And you simply become the center point for your destiny. Thank you again for joining me on this podcast, and I look forward to our next podcast.